Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good,
How are you?
good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It's a Woman Crush Wednesday, and I am excited that we are hosting this webinar on Wednesday when we crush on women leaders. It is the last week of Women's Month in South Africa, and it is so exciting that we get to have this conversation just as we continue to commemorate Women's Month. Today, the topic is breaking barriers, women leading in local business. And I am always excited about these platforms, but today is more special because I know all the ladies personally that are on the panel, and I know that they are going to share incredible insights, and not just insights, but just their personal stories about how they are breaking barriers. What is it that we can do as women in business in South Africa? Let's not keep you waiting. We've got a great panel, Dr. Sibongile Vilakazi, Kovini Moodley, Thembisa Luthuli, as well as Kanya Buthelezi, and they've got great topics and themes that they will be unpacking for us. First up, I can see Kovini is on the screen, but I believe Usbongile is our first speaker, and she's going to be talking about breaking barriers in 2025 because I think, when they say that each generation has a role to play, we might not be fighting the same struggles as the 1956 ladies or the 1960s ladies or the 1970s ladies, but we have our own struggles and we have our own challenges that we need to fight in 2025. And Usbongile is going to share that with us. And I think she's going to share an incredible story because, and I'm hoping she will talk about her book, which is called Put Her in Her Place, just her journey of how, and I feel she was perfect for this theme because she did break a barrier in terms of women in the workplace, women standing up for themselves. So I am looking forward to hearing more from her. We will take questions at the very end after each speaker has spoken. So if you have anything that you know Sbongile said, Kovini said, Tembisa Kanya said, just note it down and I'll give you an opportunity to then ask those questions at the end. Sbongile, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anele, and this platform for the invitation. I know Anele is always thinking about me wherever she is, and there's some topic that needs to be discussed first in her mind. And thank you for that. Thank you for the belief in me and the stories that I have to share, and the support that you offer to make sure that the stories gain momentum and we get to share them in other platforms than the typical platforms that we sometimes operate in. So thank you for this. I was asked to talk about why it's still necessary to break barriers in 2025. We are where we are, and yet we find ourselves surrounded by barriers. Anele has already mentioned briefly that I've authored a book. It's titled Put Her in a Place, The Shadow Side of the Moonlighting Judgment. It was published in 2024, last year. And as Anele has mentioned briefly, that the book is a story about a barrier that I have had to fight. I'm not sure if it's broken, but at least I've had to fight it. And hopefully by writing this book, show others that whatever challenges that they find themselves with, wherever they are, no matter how big they may seem, it's possible to fight them. And eventually all of these little fights in little corners, they culminate into a bigger fight that eventually we will see the glass just falling and we will wonder, how did it fall? But it fell because of the chips that we keep breaking little by little. So my book is a contribution in one space. But in the spaces that I operate in, other spaces, I'm an organizational developer as a profession. I run my own business. I assist companies to develop strategies. Most of the time, it's strategies for change, trying to get the business to move from one direction to the next, changing culture in the organization, losing market share and looking for different ways to regain market share, and having to make fundamental choices that will help the organization to get to the changes that it needs to get to. I'm also a research psychologist, so that's my base as a professional. Most of the solutions that I come up with, they are often influenced by that background, that solutions come from insights, making inquiries, understanding human behavior, and then advise accordingly on what should be the strategy going forward. Also, corporate governance, I sit on boards, and I understand, how corporates must be managed, what it means to govern an institution, all the dynamics that come with it. So that's the background that I come with as I'm discussing this topic today. And one of the things that I can say I know for sure about change or transformation is that it doesn't just happen. It must be driven. Change doesn't just happen. There has to be someone who's championing relentlessly that change. Otherwise, it won't happen. Also, change does not come when everything is comfortable. It must be forced. Usually, organizations call you in as a consultant to come and assist because they are losing market share and it's clear that they are doing something wrong. Otherwise, they will be winning in the game. And that's the only time that they are willing to listen to advice. Or there's been a crisis at the workplace, the culture is a challenge, it's toxic or whatever, and something has to break before they then decide that we will take your advice on what you have to say about changing our work culture. So it has to be forced. Something has to happen. Unfortunately, that's how change work. When we are all comfortable, we all just want to do things the way we've always done them. But the beautiful thing about change is that it starts with small actions and then it grows into habits. And then before you know it, it becomes character. So we mustn't be discouraged when you see this big issue and some, especially with entrepreneurs. You're trying to get your business out there. You've got this idea. You don't have all the markets access that you're looking for clients, you're looking for funding, all the challenges that come with being an entrepreneur. It sometimes looks so big, but small changes grows. Then eventually it's just habit. It is the way things are done. So we must be deliberate, we must be persistent, and we must be long-term minded as we think about these changes that we want to see as leaders in the spaces that we lead in. So why then is it necessary to break these barriers? Still, you would think that 31 years later, with all the efforts that have been put in place, we'll be finding things easier. But you realize that it's actually not so easy. If anything, it seems like it's getting worse, at least for many of us. Because you're trying to be an entrepreneur, you realize that it's an uphill battle. I know many people tend to focus on capital. I don't have the capital to start my idea, but actually usually the biggest problem is just getting your clients, getting people to buy into you and the idea that you are bringing, and sell that idea. And it's difficult. Being in corporate is just as difficult. The growth opportunities are limited. The culture tends to be toxic. Everybody is competing and trying to fight for that position that it may be available, and people use people to get to those positions. Tough. Academia, that's the space that I've written about in the book that Anele has mentioned. Just for you to have respect. You've worked so hard. You've got a PhD, for crying out loud. It takes, in my case, it took me how long to get to the point where I had a PhD? About 12 years in total. If you look at the junior degree, becoming a psychologist, or 7 years, and then the 4 to 5 years of doing a PhD. So it takes a lot of effort to get to a point where you can call yourself worthy of entering in academia as a space and calling yourself an academic. It takes a lot. And then you get there, you discover that you have to fight other battles that most of the time are invisible. The battles that are put in front of us, that you must study, you must publish, you must do this, and then you can call yourself whatever it is that you want to call yourself. They are easy to manage because they are visible. You know exactly what you need to do. The challenge is those battles, the patterns that have been established and entrenched. They're well managed. It's difficult for you to see them, and those are the ones that trip you. And what are those invisible barriers? Most of the time, it's attitudes. There's just persisting beliefs that because you are the person that you are, you come from the background that you come from, you belong in certain spaces, not others. So when you enter spaces where you are believed not to belong, there are gatekeepers, whether they are conscious of it or not, who are trying to trip you, and they're asking you, well, how did you get here? Why are you here? You are Black, you are female, you are ambitious, you are competent in the things that you do. Something must be wrong with you. You must be a fraud. And they look for things that will prove to themselves that you don't belong there, you must be a fraud. And anything that is beautiful, shiny, and better, it must come from somewhere else. So you find, and especially in the space that I've written about, academia, people who come from other countries, for instance, tend to be valued more. Or either you've studied abroad, or in the South African context where we are trying to push transformation, you'll find that academics who come from other African countries are the ones that are tolerated better than the locals. Us, South Africans, are the ones that get the recognition that you desire when you're in the academic space. So anything from somewhere else must be better. Anything South African must be a fraud. If you tick all the boxes, you must be a fraud, and someone or something must look out for the things that cannot be right about you. And those are the challenges that we see as barriers, and what makes it difficult is that they are invisible. So sometimes you would even think that there's something wrong with you. You are imagining these things, but you are not. They're actually there. They're real. And the more we talk about them, the more we call them out, the more it becomes real for all others to see that I'm not crazy. I'm being blocked here. There's a barrier that I have to climb, and I don't even see what it is. The next one is a system barrier. The system by character is against you. It's designed, like I said, change it starts with small actions, becomes habits, then becomes character. So we find ourselves in systems that are entrenched. It's the character of it does not think about you, think about the conditions that you come with, because we were not part of these systems. So for change then to happen, we have to deliberately challenge them. Otherwise, they just remain the way they remain. And the sad thing is that when you come in and you look different, the system has to reject you. So we have to be persistent, and we can't fall for the trap that when someone is being rejected by a system and we blame the victim, we blame the person, that, yeah, but now you shouldn't have done 1, 2, 3. You should have behaved 1, 2, 3. It's not the case. It's the system rejecting the person because they are new, they are different, and the system is entrenched. So what must we do? We must push back and challenge the systems. The value chains and supply chains, that it's long established relationships. People know when I'm looking for such a product to contribute to whatever it is that I'm manufacturing, I go to so-and-so's business. We've been working together for years and we don't have problems. And there's beauty in that. We all strive for that when we are building businesses, that you want to be so reliable and dependable that your customers must keep on coming back to you forever. That's the goal for all of us. But the challenge in environments that are trying to change is that then that becomes a barrier to entry. For those who are trying to enter the systems, those long established relationships become a barrier. So unless there's a force that actively challenges them, things will just continue the way they are. They will remain the way they are. You will struggle to do your business in South Africa because these old businesses are already entrenched. So it becomes a challenge. And that is why then we have to be long-term minded when we address these issues. We have to start small wherever we are, introduce disruptive solutions, and then bring in more, in cases of entrepreneurship, bring in more suppliers who don't look like the ones that you've always, the system has always worked with. People who come from outside and who are not part of the norm. And then once those people are in, we want to then support them. Make sure that they succeed in the spaces where we've attracted them. So if, for instance, in my case, in my story, it was an issue at Wits Business School, and I found myself having to fend for myself. There was no support. And when the system rejected me, I had to fight by myself, fighting against the system. Very difficult battle that I have to take on. But because there's no any other way, and unfortunately, there are some people who are, if you may, you can even say we are born for these things. It's when the challenge comes, you don't just run away from a challenge. You find different ways of challenging the system back. So I find myself in that situation where I had to literally fight for myself, fight against a tide, and only time will tell whether that fight will make life different for the next generation. Because at least in my immediate space, the fight was about a policy that, in my view, was not clear enough. But the system, when it's trying to reject you, it frames what's happening as if it's your fault. Something is wrong with you. You were trying to deceive the system. You were doing this. And I was persistent that no, but that's not the case. Something is flawed here in this system that you guys, in this policy that is guiding the organization. And only after I'd been dismissed and I was fighting from outside, I get feedback that they actually revisited the policy. And the points you had made, they've incorporated them, they've changed the policy, and they've incorporated those points that you've made. Long gone, system dealt with me, but the good thing that came of it is that what I was fighting for and fighting hard for, it was incorporated. The system did change, the policy did change. So if it means that some of us then become the sacrificial lambs for things to be better, then so be it. And if we're born for that, then it's fine. We welcome that purpose and calling that we carry with us. So these things are very important. Institutions like Proudly SA and the mandates that it has are very important. We must never undermine them, because you need a force that will say, there are challenges here, and these challenges need to be tackled head on. So for instance, in our context in South Africa, just enforcing accountability towards the country alone is a battle. And it's a battle that it's Proudly SA driving it is appropriate, because each and every one of us need to have that idea that this is our country. The only way it can move forward and the only way we can all grow is when we do our part, each one of us doing our part to support our country. So that sense of accountability, that before you buy something, check where was it made. Because by buying something that comes from somewhere else, literally you're exporting jobs. So check that sense of responsibility and accountability towards the country. It's well placed. And the biggest barrier being the attitudes. that anything that comes from someone else must be better quality. It must be status, in terms of status is better. Everything about them is better than us. So it does need to be tackled head on, that change in attitude that, no, it's not true. Things that are made in South Africa, being South African, being born where you were born, and all the beautiful things that you come with, we need them, bring them to the table so that we create products that are good for us, are relevant for our context, and they can also sustain us as communities. So all of those entrenched value chains, systems, the way we do things around here, we must change them and prioritize local and inclusion. That we want people from all backgrounds to participate in this economy in order for it to grow. It's the only way, anyway, it can grow. Otherwise, it will always remain the way it is. You've got the ultra rich and the poor. It will always be like that until we are conscious in tackling them and understanding that it's a long-term game. We must continue to be deliberate. Otherwise, these things don't get done. We must persist because the system fights back. It's a nature of systems. They want to maintain equilibrium. The moment there's disturbance, they fight back. So we must persist and fight back as well as the system is fighting back. So that's what I wanted to share for today, and then to say that as we gather in these kind of spaces, and want to be people or want to be seen as people who are accountable and driving accountability. Let's join this movement of accountability, caring for the next person in your space, being accountable for the next person that you either work with, do business with, to make sure that all of us, we are in the end, we are a society that contributes positively, and we are all accountable. Thank you so much. I thought that's all I wanted to share. And the book is available as exclusive books if you want to read it. It's a story, personal story of what I went through, and where all the barriers that I found, and in the end, how I coped with everything. And hopefully this is a contribution that eventually will change the entire system. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was really great. And every time I listen to you, it's like the first time I'm listening to you. There's always something new that I'm learning. And just my takeouts, I have a few points that you shared about, which just captured this topic so brilliantly. Breaking barriers doesn't just happen, it must be driven. Breaking barriers comes with discomfort, but it is in those discomforts where change comes, because it's when you take action. Breaking barriers must be deliberate and have a long-term view. Breaking barriers is a mindset shift. And when you were talking about, if we should not see ourselves as South Africans and as our products less than others because they don't come from maybe across the borders or over the seas. And then lastly, we belong in every space we choose to occupy. We must believe in that and fight to be in those spaces. Thank you. Thank you, Sibongile. I see there were a lot of reactions, clapping of hands and all that. We really appreciate it. And I do encourage everyone to get your book if they don't have it as yet. We will take questions later on. So if you do have questions for Sibongile, please just either write your questions in the chat or keep them until we have heard all our other speakers. Thank you, Sibongile. We will chat to you a little bit later.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please can you also stop sharing your screen? Thank you. Our next, we're wearing the same things, Sibongile, pink jackets, and we have short hair. Our next speaker is Kovini Moodley. She is the founder of Boss Babes of South Africa, which is a powerful, powerful movement. It has a big following because since she started it, she encourages, women supporting each other, looking out for yourselves, putting yourself first, and just knowing that you are great as a woman, as a shiro, and especially being from South Africa. Her topic is the confidence code, building authority in your local market. And I love this because it really speaks to what Boss Babes is all about, the confidence code, because that's what she encourages for us to be confident in ourselves, to show up as our best selves in every area of our lives. Kovini, over to you.
Thank you very much, Anele, and really, really honored to be here today to lend my voice to this platform. Just a bit of myself, a bit about myself before I continue rather. I am, honestly, truly, proudly South African. I love everything about this country. I know that we have challenges, but at the same time, I'm really optimistic about our future. And that's something that I want to say, just keeps me going and keeps me going, especially with the platform as well. I love that you've chosen a topic that speaks about confidence because, I grew up in a very small town and, went to public school, didn't really have a lot of self-belief back then. Um, the one thing that I do recall throughout my life is that my parents had always instilled the power of education and the need to, study hard and achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. This was something that was instilled to me, to my younger twin sisters, to our extended family, just the power of education. So with that in mind, I, qualified as a chartered accountant in 2010. And I always felt the need to give back in a bigger, more meaningful way. But at that point, I wasn't sure how I was going to do that. I was busy working in a corporate 9 to 5, and there wasn't a lot of time actually to do other things. And I think this is where, the element of finding yourself becomes very important. I had taken time off to actually just understand myself a bit better because I think the world puts a lot of pressure on us. It tells us who we need to be. It tells us what we need to look like these days. It, tells us the way we need to even speak. So I think for me, I had to do a lot of self-reflection, a lot of introspection, and focusing on who I really am. What do I love doing? And the answer that I came up with was that I love to inspire and I love to lead people. And I do those two things very, very naturally. Even in my current job, working in corporate, I do those elements, I want to say, seamlessly. So that's really where the idea of Boss Babes of South Africa stemmed from. It was just as we had gone into lockdown 5 during COVID. And I thought to myself, how can we, it was a glum situation. And how can I now use my voice and, my imagination to impact from a digital perspective? Because that was all we really had. There was no going out, there was no events. All we had was, our cell phones and really just being able to stay inside and try and find ways that this could work as such. So I think for me, it's really just been an incredible journey of reflection and then coming up with the concept of building this community and this proudly South African brand, which all started from the comfort of my lounge. I would just start posting things about life, about the way people were feeling. And little did I know that, my audience was slowly but surely growing. And towards the end of 2020, it had grown very significantly. And a lot of the media houses had come forward to say, they now want to interview Boss Babes of South Africa. They want to interview the community. And that's really how it started to, I want to say, create a domino effect because people would tell other people. And in that way, that's sort of how the brand, I want to say, marketed itself. But just focusing a little bit more on, I guess, living and my experience as a woman of color in corporate SA at the same time, during building Boss Babes of South Africa. Um, there were many, many challenges. And I think a lot of us who I know that's part of this webinar have also faced some of the challenges that I've unfortunately experienced. Workplace bullying, harassment, even elements of sexual harassment, unfortunately. And these are things that when it hits you, it's very hard to just move past or just to bounce back from. Because you're at a particular organization, you're doing excellent work, you're meeting targets, exceeding targets. And I think just like our speaker said earlier on as well, Sibongile, when your light shines bright, there's always a need for, people around you to want to dull that and dim that. And when it happens the first few times, it's very hard to, pick yourself up and rebuild your confidence. But, looking back after a good few years, I can safely say that these experiences, as traumatic and as terrible as they have been, have just shaped me towards being stronger, towards understanding who I am and what I will no longer stand for, towards operating in spaces where integrity and ethics is of, the utmost importance. And also being able to take the knowledge that I gained during those experiences, and empower young professionals who are entering corporate spaces. And not all are bad. I have to say I've worked for some incredible companies, and also some on the opposite side of incredible. So I think with that knowledge, it's also important to be able to give back to young professionals, which I do in my private capacity, and in terms of supporting young chartered accountants, just in terms of expectation management, in terms of mentorship, building their personal brands, showing up as yourself in corporate SA, which, I don't think I've fully managed to excel at yet, but, there's a slow process to actually, firstly knowing yourself and then being able to show up as yourself. And at the same time, while you're going through things and you're working and you're, doing well at work, you're still at the same time struggling with what they call the imposter syndrome, because you're walking into rooms and no one looks like you, no one sounds like you. It's almost like a culture shock in some organizations, and that adds to the challenge. But I think through that entire process, what's been important is just having a great support system. And also somewhere deep down inside of us, we all have inner strength and inner power. And I know it sounds cliche because sometimes we just say, oh, it's within you, and, pull out your strength. But I think during your deep and difficult times, your strength has no option but to come out to support you. And that's what I've learned in my life. And I've learned about being able to maneuver through very tricky situations, and still come out with, without losing, if I could say that, in a general way. And that's built my resilience. That's built my confidence. The other thing that's been really instrumental in terms of, building both my personal and my professional brand, which is what I aim to do, is just showing up on the various platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and defining what my brand is. I think that was probably the most important part of creating a personal brand and a business brand. And I think for me, I love the fact that when I show up as myself, actually show up as Boss Babes of South Africa, but also other things. So I love the fact that I can, show up as myself and just be recognized for everything that I stand for. For me, it's really about speaking up against, the inequalities that we find ourselves facing, especially as women of color in this country. Being overlooked, being ignored, sometimes being given the silent treatment because you chose to speak up and voice your thoughts about certain things that weren't going right. But I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned in creating my brands is just, being able to find yourself. And the minute you do that, I can say that everything starts to become easier. It's not magical immediately, but finding yourself and knowing who you are deep down inside. What are your unique strengths? What are your unique offerings to this world? I honestly don't believe any of us have just, come onto earth randomly. We all have something very unique to offer. And I think when you find what is that sweet spot, as they call it, what is the stuff that you can do that comes very naturally to you, that doesn't take a lot of work and effort, you could do it with your eyes closed, is when you start to get closer to living and honoring your authenticity, or your higher self, as they sometimes call it. I've also learned to just embrace my flaws. We all can't be perfect at all times. Um, I still struggle with adult acne, and I sometimes share those journeys on my platform as well. For me, it's really about showing the good, bad, and the ugly. And I think that's what's made my brand and myself pretty relatable. Um, is that I made a conscious decision not just to show the highlights, because sometimes people look at your social media and they just think you're having the most amazing life, and behind the scenes you could be going through a lot. So I think for me it was about bringing balance, to show that often what people post on social media is a highlight reel. It is the very best moments of their life. And also to understand that with the best moments of your life, there's also challenges that you're dealing with behind the scenes. There's bullies that you're fighting off. There's, a whole host of things that you're trying to maneuver in your life. As a woman, as a professional, as someone that, I consider myself to be multifaceted. And I know a lot of people get judgment for saying, or get judged for wanting to do other things outside of your work. I actually encourage women and the young individuals that I mentor to go out and find other things to do. Because I think as much as we love our jobs are not our life. And our life needs to be filled with other things that we also love and that bring us a level of joy and purpose. The other thing that has been really phenomenal in terms of confidence building is just being able to build this wonderful community called Boss Babes of South Africa. Our latest venture is hashtag Share Sizonke, which is a skill sharing platform, and that allows women from all walks of life to come forward and skill share, teach us about what you're great at, if it's marketing, if it's budgeting, if it's tax expertise. We've had incredible submissions, and it's all on our platform at present. And I think we can't underestimate the power of just investing in yourself, irrespective of what you're going through, irrespective of what people, the minute you put yourself out on the internet, people are going to judge you. They're going to have a perception of you. In the beginning, it was tough to comprehend why people would even care about you creating a brand that was proudly South African, that was doing great things in the world. But yeah, I think when your light starts to shine, sometimes you attract, fleas and mosquitoes as well in that journey. And I think for me, it's just been about constantly reiterating my own self-belief and my own self-power, and building my confidence through skills. So, constantly investing in my knowledge as a chartered accountant, as a risk specialist, doing additional courses, and just, keeping abreast with everything that's happening in the world. Also helps to build your confidence. Confidence is not something that you can, click your finger and just, have it the next day. It really is something that you need to be investing in yourself. It's something that you need to be putting time into. And, I think it starts with you, because if you don't believe in yourself, it becomes very hard for someone else who's receiving your message or receiving your podcast or your video to actually believe in what you're saying, if you're unable to believe in what you're saying for yourself. Energy is also something that's really huge in my life. I believe it, I feel it. I'm more of a feeling person, so often I want to say I read people, but that's just at a very high level, because I believe that your energy really does introduce you before you speak, before you say anything. So it is important to be able to care for ourselves, to protect our peace, and to make sure that wherever we choose to show up, personal, professional, in corporate spaces, in other environments, that we believe in ourselves enough to show up and leverage our authentic power. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I, like I said with Usbongile, like I know you guys and all that, but there's always something new I'm learning, about each person every time I interact with them. And I really love that about you. And what I do have other points that I just want to point out. But the fact that, because I also was like, oh, wow, she's so real, when you used to tell us about going to the dermatologist, this is what's happening. You don't have makeup on today. And I loved that because we curate what we show so much, and then when maybe people see you in person, they're like, oh, you're not as you are on the socials. So what you are doing is to say, yes, I have this platform and I'm going to be in all these other stages, but I'm still a person and I still go through what every woman goes through. So here I am as my true self, and the confidence then also comes in that because you're comfortable in who you are and you're comfortable knowing that I'm just human. I might have this amazing platform, Boss Babes of South Africa, which has thousands and thousands and thousands of followers across the different platforms. But guys, I'm still just a human and I'm still just a woman, you know. Some of the takeouts from other takeouts, from what you shared with us is I know, like we say, these things are cliched, but they cliche because they're true, is turn your lemons into lemonade. I actually didn't know that Boss Babe only started in during COVID. I thought it's something that's been happening forever. But like you were saying, okay, we're at home, we're not going to be seeing people, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be part of a community. So you turned a very unfortunate situation into something that can still be good. And it's been good for 5 years. So congratulations on that. Um, and then knowing yourself, this helps you to show up as your best self and it grows your confidence, like you said. And confidence can be built by focusing inward. You are resilient, you carry light, you have purpose, don't lose yourself. Those are things that can only come from within because when that external validation is gone or people are not giving you the applause, you kind of crumble. But if you know who you are, you know what you stand for, you know you carry this light, and you really believe in that, you'll always stay standing and be resilient. And then the other points is confidence comes from using what is at your disposal, leaning on your community and knowing your sweet spot. And that's when you were saying, talking about your social media, that you were just posting and trying to encourage people and bring some light during times when we didn't know when we'll be able to go out, when we'll be able to be free in a sense. And you used what you had and you continue to use your social media platforms to drive that light, to drive that inspiration. And then confidence comes from using what comes naturally to you and your skill set. And lastly, confidence needs you to invest in it. Take time to grow your confidence. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure we're going to have quite a few questions on that because as women, I think some people they do have natural confidence, some people have to work on it. So thank you. I do encourage those who don't follow Boss Babes of South Africa to follow, because you just get that inspiration, you grow your network, you grow your community just by following them. Thanks, Kovini.
Yeah.
We'll see you later. Thank you. Um, Next we will be having Kanya Buthelezi. Kanya is part of Women in Business South Africa, which is similar to, Boss Babes of South Africa, but just focus more on women in business. And it's an organization that is based in Maritzburg, yay, but has a footprint across the country. And aside from being part of Women in Business, she is the managing director of All Way to Waste Group. So she is in the waste management space. And Kanya's topic is strategies for growth from survival to scale, smart growth moves. So I'd like to just give it over to Kanya to take us through her presentation. Robin, if you can just help me, I don't see Kanya in the participants. Please, can you let me know if Kanya is on or if we must go over to Utembisa.
Hi, Anelil. I think let's move on for now.
Okay, thank you. Tembisa, I hope you are ready. I know you are speaking a bit earlier than the time that you were given, but we are just going to connect with Ukanya so that she can join us. But we would like to just move on to you. Tembisa is another person that I know very well, that I've also worked with. And she has an incredible story, and similar to Sbongile, she's also got a book that talks about healing your financial wound. And she talks about how the way your money story and the way you spend your money and the way you whether you invest or not invest and save or not save actually comes from how you were brought up, which both speakers Bongile and Kovini also spoke about in terms of sharing their backgrounds with us. So Tembisa shares that, and it ties in very nicely with her topic, which is personal journeys of leadership, my story, my strength, building a business from the ground up, because she's been able to use her financial, healing her financial wounds into being a financial wealth coach. So, Tembisa, please can you join us and share your personal journey of leadership with us?
Thank you so much, Anele. I will share my screen and then you will let me know when you can see it.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone. I am honored to be here. I'm also excited to be here. I'm Tembisa Lutuli, and basically, I'm just here to share my story and how it has been my strength and what my journey look like, right? Building a business from ground up. A disclaimer, I do run a business, but I'm also in corporate. So leadership for me has come through both experience in corporate, but also building a business, which I think both my speakers that have come through have highlighted well in terms of what are the challenges that we face, especially as Black women. So I think my story is also just walking the same path in terms of how I have grown, how have I have overcome, still overcoming, and also still learning. So just a little bit background of where I come from, so one will understand the journey as a whole. I am a certified financial planner, also a general tax practitioner with over 12 years experience in the financial planning industry. The business that I have founded or that I run is called Wealth That Matters, and I founded that business in 2019. I'm also an author, as Anele said, of a book called Financial Healing. I think, again, as the journey, as a financial planner, I was worked with people, a lot of people in terms of their money. I think I've seen different people who has money and who does not have money, and those who thought they have money, but in actual fact they don't have money. So I think writing a book came from that background, but also it came from my own healing journey of coming from a very, very poor background, not knowing money, not having anything really. And then as I grow and interact with money, being a professional that advise other people with money, I needed to do introspection, needed to understand my own behaviors, my own habits when it comes to money. And why is this happening? Because I do have financial education. I understand how money works, but it all works the opposite of what I should actually be doing. And then I realized that in actual fact, our money behaviors and our money attitude and the relationships that we have with money, especially with as Black people, is not really about the numbers or the coins or the papers in our wallets. It's actually deeper than that. It's about the wounds that we carry. It's about the trauma that we carry. It's about the stories that we have when it comes to finances. It's about the things that we had It's about the things that we did not hear. It's about the conversations that we sat in. It's about the conversation that we did not sit in. It's also about the environment that we experience. It's about the people that we grew around, and they told us certain things about money that actually then shape how we will interact about money. Um, yes, highly qualified, which then again goes back to what Uswangile said. In most industries, corporate, in business, as a Black woman, you probably need to prove yourself 40 times than your counterparts. For me to be a trusted financial planner in a very untrusted industry, financial services, and to also build trust with clients, bigger clients as well as individual clients, it called for me to constantly learn, constantly challenge myself, getting all those qualifications so that when I get into the room, people can trust me. But you find that no matter how many qualifications you have, you still face those barriers, and um, but we push on. A few awards on the belt, but overall, I think I'm just a passionate advocate for financial literacy. I wish everybody could have a chance to be educated when it comes to money, then have the confidence to actually take action to change their financial journey overall, and then achieve their financial independence. I'm a mom of two teenage boys. I'm a wife and a daughter. So I think my journey began when I say I'm passionate about seeing people, grow. I think there's just in me something that is an educator by nature, right? They say you don't build a business, but a business builds you, and that has been my journey, right? I think starting a business in 2019, just because before COVID, I thought, okay, let me build something, wealth that matters. Let me build something that my people, my community can actually relate to, right? They can actually start their journey of building wealth, wealth that matters to them, wealth that matters to their community, wealth that matters to their country, wealth that defines them, wealth that matters to their next generation, right? Wealth that is not defined by the society. So this is through the challenges that I've personally experienced, but also the challenges that I've seen, especially young professionals experience. So that was a motivation for me, right? Wealth That Matters is a company that offers financial coaching, financial literacy education, financial management, and financial planning services. Again, as I said, what inspired me was to see people change. I've got a few millionaires under my belt over the years, and whenever they share their stories, say, I've reached my first million, it feels so great. For me, that's just a huge, achievement. Somebody will say, I had a few ladies that had lost their partners. And or they got divorced, and when we go the journey with them, you find that actually we've got bigger problems as the community. So that's basically what inspired me, and what then pushed me to say, let me start, no matter how small it is, let me start. I think if you are going to build a business, you need to uh, accept that you will build from nothing, but aim for growth. It's very important. I think we push ourselves, especially women. We want to do everything, which is good. We want to shoot for the stars, which is good as well. But sometimes we're afraid to start small. We're afraid to start where we are with what we have. So for me, I think leading myself to grow to where I am, to where I still want to go, was to accept the fact that maybe let me start with no capital. Let me start with no office. Let me start with no staff. Let me start as Tembisa and the knowledge that I have. And then I will adapt. I will adapt and grow. I will build networks. Those who know me, Anneli will tell you I'm in every event that I can be. I ask for mentorship, right? I come as I am. Very important to stay consistent and authentic. Everybody who knows Tembisa will align Tembisa with Money Talks in social media, in workspace, because of the consistency I've shown in the last 12 years. If you are known for what you do and what you are passionate on, believe me, there is no way you cannot experience growth. So it's very important to just take a leap of faith, start where you are, but adapt with the changes, adapt with technology, get into spaces where you can learn as much as you can. I leave by saying that you need to be very teachable and coachable for you to be able to teach others and continuously grow. So I think my biggest strength that has helped me to be where I am, started a very big leadership position in corporates 3 months ago. It's all about resilience because the barriers will be there and you will fall so many times, 150 million times. You will fall, you will fail. But if you don't take failure as the end, and if you don't take that falling as the end, but as learnings, you'll definitely succeed. So resilient for me is what has kept me going. Continuous learning. It's only this year where I'm not really studying anything over the last 12 years. And I said to my husband one day, it feels like I'm going insane because my mind is just not grasping the fact that I am not studying, right? But for me, continuous learning is also not about I had to come to a point when continuous learning is not only about qualifications. I read a lot of books. Believe me, as much as I'm so experienced and qualified in financial planning, I read a lot of financial literacy book as well because you don't know what you don't know, right? Until you get to it. It's so important that we always belong to community because you can't do things alone. You can't grow alone. So community support is my strength. I believe in community support. I know a lot of hyper independent women who want to achieve everything. At first, it's become so hard to ask for help. But I've realized that could be your biggest strength, right? To be able to be vulnerable, to be able to say, you know what, I don't know this, I need help. You know what, I'm drowning. You know what, I'm not coping because we are faced with so many challenges, mental health, being moms, being wives. We are expected to be everything, but we can't be available for even ourselves. So if you belong in a community, I think that's one of the important things that you could give yourself in your growth journey. The last thing that one of my biggest strengths is being a person who's very visionary and I always have a purpose. Even if in dark times, I always have a vision and a purpose. And I think that's why I'm able to achieve a lot of things because I always think forward. I always just don't look at everything as they are, but it's important to just think future forward, right? Have a vision. What do you want to achieve? How do you think you can achieve that, right? Why do you want to achieve that? And that's the most important thing that sometimes we skip when we're creating our vision and even our vision boards. We'll belong in these beautiful groups, we're creating vision, but what is your vision? Why are you creating that vision? For what purpose, right? So it's very important that you clearly articulate that for yourself and for your growth journey. So I think in overall and in the journey and still the journey that I'm still walking is that um, fail fast but learn faster, right? As you do things again, as I've said, you'll fail a lot. You'll fail fast, but learn more even faster from those failing. Whenever you are falling, make sure that you look for a lesson. Sometimes there is no lesson, you just needed to fall, maybe because you needed to slow down. But again, that's a lesson as well. You needed to slow down. But when you fail, don't forget to look for a lesson there. But also, as I said, for me, learning is a very important aspects. Relationship matters more than a transaction. And this is very important in my business because I deal with people's money. And for me, for people to trust me when it comes to their finances, I realized a long time ago that it's actually not about the money, it's about the relationship. It's about caring for those you are serving. It's about serving with purpose. When you're a leader, you need to be a transformational leader, a leader that cares for either your clients, your employees, the people that you work with in the community. So relationships matters more than the transaction. Whenever you build a business, you are in corporate, remember that people first, and then transactions later. And believe me, you will have sticky business. Either you're in service business or you are in goods business. Relationships matters more than the transaction. Again, I think I've emphasized this through community, but don't be afraid to ask help because you will never know what you don't know. Ask help in things that you are not good at. You can never be a jack of all trades. Believe me, you can't. You can't be good in finance. You can't be good in medicine. You can't be good in everything. There are things that you will need to ask help. So don't be afraid to ask for that help. One thing that we beat ourselves up as we strive for growth, we never celebrate. And I think today I posted something that we focus more on our daily frustrations. We forget on the real blessings that we actually have. We have. So it's very important as you grow your business, as you grow in your corporate space, celebrate your small wins, you know. If you finish that project, clap for yourself, right? You've done something. You've closed that business deal. Clap for yourself, celebrate. If it means you go and sit at Wimpy or whatever, you eat that breakfast for 100 Rand, celebrate your wins because that's a motivation for you to move forward. I think for me, what I want to say to aspiring leaders, and I mean, leadership is something not complicated. Leadership is about self-control first. If you can't lead yourself, just know that you can never lead other people, and you need to define what leadership for you look like. If you cannot control yourself, lead yourself, manage yourself, just know that you can never be able to manage other people. So it's important to believe in your story, believe in yourself, understand yourself. Self-awareness is important. Find mentors and allies. Get into group of people that think like you, right? Very importantly, be bold and take risk. You will never achieve anything in your safe corner. You will also never know what you can achieve and how far you can go if you're always playing it safe. So it's important that you be bold and take the risk. Might fail, but what's the worst thing that can happen? It's just failure. You will always bounce back. Importantly, lift others as you rise. This is so much important for growth of the community, for the growth of the country, because if it's just going to be you, then where are we going? As you rise, lift others, mentor others, teach others, you know. I'm very big again on educating other people. And lastly, you are not an expert in everything. Also, we all have blind spots, so be very open to feedback. And that has helped me a lot to be able to go to people who are, have walked the journey before me to say, am I doing things right? Am I still, introspecting? Am I still doing things right? Am I going on the right direction? Is this the way to do it, right? So be open to feedback as well. And that is very important. So for me, I think for everyone, for anyone who wants to grow in any space that you are in, it either you want to be a great leader, it's either you want to be a great teacher, you want to be a better mom, you want to be a better, you want to be better, or you want to succeed in something. First, define your success. What does it look like? What is it that you want to achieve, and then fight one barrier at a time. I think Sisi Sibongile um, gave us a good, picture of how barriers are there. They will always be there. The systems are like that. You just need to fight. And that's what we're here for. Break one barrier at a time and build with purpose and strength. Rest if you must, but don't quit, right? And that's basically being my story on leadership and growth and building a business. I have written a book, as I've said, Healing Financial Trauma. This is basically a book of my own experience, experience of those that I've served as clients, in realizing that no matter how much money you might have, no matter how much education even you might have, but if you've not healed your financial trauma, you might find yourself being a person who wants to do things out of wound. A Tembisa that grew up very much poor ended up buying food as an adult to feed a young Tembisa who went hungry, right? And I did not realize that I'm actually now putting my kids on another journey of having trauma, because we buy a lot of food and it goes to waste, because I buy out of fear. Those are the little things. You envy people that have achieved their things, not because you envy them, or you're jealous of them. You probably think they don't deserve it. You probably deserve it more. The reality, money is infinite. There's adequate for everyone. And if we can have that awareness about our financial traumas, understanding our mindset when it comes to money, we can definitely take a step forward when it comes to finding financial freedom, funding financial independence. And that's definitely me. I'm very big on Facebook when it comes to teaching financial literacy and financial education. You can also get me on LinkedIn. The book is available on Takealot as well as on Amazon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Um, as I said with Smongire's book, get this book too. I've read it. And 2 weeks ago, we were in conversation again just around financial literacy and healing your financial trauma. And every time you make, and I love that you keep the food example, because sometimes it must be that simple to make us see that it doesn't have to be big things like, are you investing? Are you not investing? Are you buying? It's just, I didn't have much growing up. So now I used to buy so much thinking I'm going to have lack. Gandhi, I'm actually wasting, So thank you. Some of the takeouts just from what you shared, quite a bit, because financial literacy and just our finances are always a big thing in our lives. So introspection helps you in shaping your personal and leadership journeys. And financial education is not enough around money matters. You need to look into your habits, into your patterns, into your background, and then align yourself with passion and purpose. When people hear your name, they must know what you stand for. In order to grow, and I think this one is important, in order to grow, be coachable and teachable. Being coachable and teachable will make you a good coach and teacher. And then continuous learning is important. And as you said, it's not just about acquiring qualifications. Read books, speak to people, grow your knowledge in other ways. And this is something that has been a consistent theme, I think, from Usbongile to Convenient to Yourself community. Community is strength. You don't have to do things alone. Lean on others. Have a vision and live in your purpose. Have a long-term view of your life. And to be a leader, and a great leader, focus on yourself, lead yourself, manage yourself, control yourself, so that you are then able to lead others and manage others. And then lastly, it was define your own success. And this I felt was important, because a lot of the times, I mean, all three of you ladies, and also Kanya, who's going to speak next, you ladies are all successful, but you're all successful in your own way. It's very different, but you're all successful. And I think it comes from that know what works for you, know what your passion is, what your purpose is. And like you said, align yourself to that, because your success is going to be different from someone else's success. It doesn't mean you're not successful just because it doesn't look like Utembi says, but it's, what your goal is. And focusing on that helps you then define your success. Thank you. We'll have questions for you also at the end. I hope our guests who have joined us are noting those questions. I already have some questions for all our speakers, but I'll also keep mine until the end. Kanya has now joined us. We had introduced her before we spoke with Utembisa. So I'd like Kanya, Managing Director of Always to Waste Group, to join us. And she's also a member of Women in Business South Africa. Kanya?
Hello, everybody. Hi, Anela. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Oh, perfect. Hello, everybody, and good morning. We've just been struggling with connection issues, but we're finally here. I was logged in earlier, but I just couldn't come up on profile to present. So I came in last minute because obviously Nombilo, who is the CEO of Women in Business, is attending her graduation for one of the business seminars she was attending. And so I've stepped in because I am a committee member and a member of Women in Business in Pietermaritzburg. So my name is Kanya Buthelezi. I'm the founder and the owner of Away to Waste Group, a community-based waste management company that is passionate about the environment and the planet we live in. And we're shining a light as a company on the effects of climate change and what we can do as South Africans. So I think today to talk about strategies for growth and from survival to scale, smart growth moves where, being proudly South African, is in effect. I think that it's so important for us to remember that in a time when we are struggling as a country with the highest rate of unemployment that we've ever faced before, businesses need to step up as much as possible. We have a lot of businesses that are still in their startup kind of stage, but it is important to grow as a business so that we can create the jobs. We can participate in the economy, but there are certain things that we need to apply as businesses in order for us to be able to do that. So that's what I'm going to be speaking about today: strategies for growth, survival from where we are as businesses, and where we can scale as businesses, and the moves that we need to make. So I successfully grew my business from being a startup in 2019. 2020, obviously, COVID hit. And then in 2021, I received funding for my business, and that was what helped me grow my business to where we are today. So from 2022, we were then fully operational as a business, and now we're able to grow and participate in the economy. So what we did as a business is, firstly, in order for us to grow, we looked at the market that we're in as a waste management company. We looked at the fact that in this market, we have to understand that we can't just have a growth strategy, but we have to have a growth strategy that has to speak to the market and the industry that we're in. So we have to understand our markets. So how do we do this? We conduct market research to identify the trends. We have to understand what our customers need. We need to understand our competitors very, very well. We can't compete all the time by, always knowing and doing what our clients and our customers and our competition is doing. But what we can do is stay in our own lane, but understand what our competition is doing. So when we do business plans, we always put the SWOT analysis, but we never use it to grow our businesses. So I think it is important to utilize the tools that you have in your business plan, like your SWOT analysis, to know your strengths, to know your weaknesses, to know your opportunities, and to remember knowing your market is not a one-time effort. It's something that needs to be done continuously. So in our business, we do something that is called SMART goals. So I separate the year into 4 quarters: Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and every 3 months we review as a business and look at our market every time we do this. And another thing in growing your business is having a customer-centric approach. It is very important that when you're growing a business, you look at your clients and you look at the journey that you offer your clients as and when they are starting to, do business with you. So it is essential to adopt a customer-centric approach. So engage directly with your customers to gather feedback and insight. The one thing that we don't do as service providers is that we don't get feedback for our clients and know exactly what it is that they like about our services and dislike about our services. Just because they're paying us on a monthly basis, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are 100% happy. And we can optimize what we do with them, and also grow the work that we do with them and the income that we generate from particular clients, just by knowing what their insights are and what their feedback is. And this could be through surveys, interviews, we can do social media interactions, whatever you need to do, but remember to do it, because happy customers will be your best marketing tool. They will go and spread the word about what you do and about how you are as a service provider. Another thing is, we live in a world that is changing, and we are proudly South African, but in order for us to be able to compete with global competitors, we need to be innovative. We can't, as a South African company, think that we're just going to continue doing things the way that South Africa is doing things, and not scale. Also scale the way that we are innovative in the things that we do. So innovation is key to drive growth in any organization. Putting in proper systems, putting in technologies that will help your business grow and set your business aside from your competitors. And also, being innovative can be a value proposition for you as a service provider. It can be something that sets you apart from your competition. So it is important to look at your existing processes and adopt new technologies, that can set you apart. Encourage culture of innovation within your organization. Empower teams. I think what we do is, the minute that we see ourselves doing well as business owners, we don't empower our teams to grow them, and also, expose them to what the global standards are for whatever business that you're in is doing. We have to do this in order for us to grow. So empower your teams, experiment and share ideas. Don't fear failure when you are innovating and adding new things to your businesses. View it as a stepping stone to success, whatever innovative ideas you're adding. Implement agile methodologies can also help speed up the innovation process. And allow for quick interactions, because we want real-time business. You might not be the best because you don't have the equipment, or you might not be the best because you don't have the proper raw materials, but you can be the best because you communicate very well with your clients and your turnaround time is very good, and that is what sets you apart. And then you see that is what you're doing. So to being innovative, you add a system that will speak to your clients faster, because that is your strength. So that's the reason why I said it's very important to be innovative. And then the one thing that I think is also so important when we're growing our businesses and looking to scale, is to collaborate and have strategic partners and to network. I can't stress this enough, especially as small businesses that are looking for growth, that are looking to be key players in the economy. It is important to collaborate. Collaborating with other businesses. I collaborate a lot with bigger waste management businesses, and people are like, but that's your competition. They are my competition, but they also are my strategic partners that I use up until I scale to the next level where I have big equipment like they do. So for me, it is important that you collaborate with other businesses who can provide access to new markets for you, resources and expertise. Look for companies that can complement your offerings, and consider joint ventures, but make sure that you sign agreements, whenever you're doing anything that is a partnership, and alliances, because you have companies that you look up to, but maybe you're too scared to approach them and let them know that this is something you'd be interested in collaborating with them. This is not only to expand your reach, but it can also enhance your credibility, because when people know that you work with certain companies or with certain brands, then they think that you're credible, and they know that you're credible because of the collaborations that you have. And also remember, it's about creating a win-win situations for both parties involved, and you're about growing your business, and you're about scaling your business. So you have to do everything that is possible in order to do that. And then another thing that I will add lastly, as I'm about to close, is scaling your operations and allowing your company to be operationally excellent. Within the South African sphere, we always think that global companies that are outside of South Africa are more excellent, operationally excellent than we are in our own businesses. But I think that we have to understand that it is important for us to know what is required from us in order for us to be operationally excellent. So as your business grows, scaling operations effectively is very crucial. This includes optimizing your supply chain, investing in technologies, ensuring your team is trained properly, streamlining your processes, look at your processes on a monthly basis and change whatever is slowing you down, whatever is helping you or slowing you for being able to work with your clients quickly. You need to look at their process and streamline it, how to reduce costs, how to improve efficiency, enabling you to meet and increase the demand without compromising your quality. Additionally, consider automation for the people that can automate, the repetitive tasks that you see in your organization, and allowing your team to focus more on strategic initiatives. I think it is very important that we have to understand that for a business to survive, as a business to transition from being a smaller business to being a business that scales and to being a proudly South African business that is able to work with global brands, it requires for us to have a multifaceted approach. We can't just look at one thing, we have to look at everything, so this is understanding your markets, adopting customer-centric mindset, embracing innovation, exploring strategic partnerships, scaling operations effectively, and then remembering that your position in your organization is always going to be for sustainable growth. Growing sustainable and healthy businesses that are compliant and that can work with global markets is what we need to do in South Africa. Let's not just survive in this competitive landscape. Let's thrive by making smart moves that pave a way for our future success as South Africans, so that we can be proud, of who we are and who we are in business. I think if we can do that, we can stop bringing more people into our businesses, more people into our organizations, and curb this, thing that we're facing in South Africa, which is quite bad, which is unemployment. But I know that we're looking at the small businesses to be able to do that, to grow nicely, to be able to engage nicely with global brands if we can, as well as do business, at home very well, so that we grow and we're able to create jobs and be key players in the economy. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kanya, for that. For someone who was brought in very late, you did very, very well. Thank you. Kanya is also someone that I know. She's from Maritzburg, so obviously I know her. Just some of the takeouts from what you shared, that market research, and these are things that we hear about, and we're like, okay, I'll have a business plan, I'll do the market research. But it's you saying, market research is key in starting and growing your business, that we actually really need to take it seriously and utilize the plans and tools in your business plan. I wonder how many people actually go back to their business plans once they've gotten the funding or whatever it is, but use what you said, that SWOT that you did, go back to it, and review your business regularly. Like you said, you do so every quarter. Be customer centric. So also get feedback from your customers regularly. And this will help you to service your clients better. And like you said, they become your marketing tool because then word of mouth spreads through them. Innovation is key to drive your business growth. Innovation can be a value proposition. And a big one also is empower and expose your teams so they can grow. And when they grow, they help grow the business. Collaborate, have strategic partners, network. You can learn from other businesses. And you mentioned there that people are like, but these are your competitors. But they've been in the business longer. So there are things that you can learn from them. And then be operationally excellent. That is, I think, an important theme as well, to say, look at the operations. How can you work better and how can you process better within the organization? Please, we have questions for you as well, but we just have a video to play from Proudly South African, for those who may not know who Proudly South African is, and just to share who we are, what we do, how people can become members. And then after that video, it's less than 5 minutes, we'll then go into the Q&A, where we will ask our guests some questions based on what they shared with us today, and we'll take questions from other guests as well. There's no sound in the video. Tanya, please, can you turn your video off now? And then we'll just give the team in the background a moment to play the video.
There's a voice that is calling loudly. There's a voice that is calling, loudly calling, day by day, the voice of the future.
When I started my business, all I wanted was to create jobs and a legacy for the next generation, because I see opportunity when others see impossibility.
It all started with a thought and then a seed in the garden, which grew into my very own farm that feeds the whole nation daily.
Cotton, silk, and a little bit of treasure, I create masterpieces that give South Africans an identity, comfort, and confidence, because when you look good, you feel good.
From the factory workers to the warehouse and then over the seas, I want to show the world what proudly South African looks like. It all started with just some ink on paper and inspiration to bring people together. With my furniture, I now help create spaces that are beautiful, comfortable, and authentic to human light and connection.
I've always been driven by curiosity. It fueled my dreams to create automobiles that accelerate our nation into greater possibilities and the beauty of the unknown.
I was born into a rainbow nation. My life has been full of colors and mixed flavors. And when I started my bakery, I wanted to share that joy with the world and with South Africans in particular.
All I ever dreamt of was to be a bird and fly high. And now I have the wings to help others fulfill their dreams of flying high too.
But it can only be a dream until you make it a reality. All they need is your faith, your trust, your loyalty, your appreciation.
And most importantly,
Your support.
because supporting local businesses
Helps create jobs
And secures our future.
South Africa, their future is in your hands. So what are you going to do about it? Be proudly South African. Buy local to create jobs.
Thank you to the team for playing that video. I've got some questions for each of our guests. Actually, there's one question that I want to ask all the guests, and then I'm going to have a question for each of them. So, all of you are involved in more than one thing, more than two things at a time. And I want to know just how do you create the balance or harmony, work-life balance, work-life harmony. And especially as women, because besides being business owners, besides being authors, besides being entrepreneurs and all that, you have your own life. You are moms, some of you are wives, some of you are friends, you are daughters, you are all these other things. How is it that you, the balance of it? And then I wanted to ask, I think if we can go in the order that we spoke in answering these questions. So that's the first question that I want to ask all of you. And then, Sbongile, as you answer that first question, the second question that I'd like you to answer is, with you breaking barriers and you took on, this institution, you went all the way to labor court, you wrote a book about it. Does that, and you're a Black young female, does that impact other spaces that you go into in terms of workspaces or getting clients? Do you feel that some people kind of shy away from working from you because they're like, oh, what if she's going to come and cause trouble here? So if you can just answer that, and then when Kovini's turn to answer, I'll ask her her question. But all of you, can you please just first answer the question about the balance and how you manage to be all these roles and play all these roles that you're involved in?
Okay, I guess I'll kick off.
Yes, please.
Yeah, balance. There's no such a thing as balance. I think firstly, that's the accepting that balance is a myth, doesn't exist. You do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. And you just have to be conscious that you have different roles, and those roles must be taken care of. Otherwise, you will be stretched thin, and the things that feed your soul will not be taken care of. I always make this example when I get this question about balance. How when I was studying, when I was doing my PhD, I had a 2-year-old daughter, and I had a senior position at work whilst doing a PhD part-time. So, and the question, I was a single mother. And and the question is, how do you do all of these things all at once and everything else works? In my case, it's integrating everything that is important to me. So there's no, you stop this and you start the other, you stop the other, and there's no balance. It's everything is integrated, everything feeds into the other. And if there's a ball that you need to drop, you put it down. Don't drop balls. Just be conscious, put it down, and say, for this time, I will not look at this because I don't have the time for it or the energy at this moment, and it's not so urgent. So I will put it down for now and pick another ball that is urgent at that time, and you focus on that you need to do, and then you also put it down. And yeah, so for instance, as a mother, as a single mother, I was also fortunate, I guess, at the time that I had an employer who was enabling women leaders, because, for instance, there was a crash on the premises, so I would take my daughter to work with me, and she would go to crash, and after hours, if I still have late meetings, I could bring her up. People wouldn't frown that why do you have a child in the meeting? Like, the environment was conducive. I was fortunate for that, and I guess not everybody has that type of fortune. So that's how I got through what I needed to get through at that time. And it's the same thing even now. One ball at a time, things that are integratable, integrate them. Like, for instance, the talk that I've just done today, it incorporates some of the work that I would have been doing. So the experience that I get from the work that I've been doing, and I'm able to then come on this platform and give insights based on that work as well. So yeah, so firstly, no such a thing as balance. Integrate what you can integrate, accept what you can't do at that time, put it down, don't let it drop. So be in control of your life and manage these balls instead of trying to juggle all of them at the same time. And then the question about being a troublemaker. Yeah, it's an interesting one, because yeah, it does make people uncomfortable, but you are the type of person that can take on institutions. People don't take on institutions. They walk away. So it makes people uncomfortable, but at the same time, they respect you for it. So I guess it's a double-edged sword, because then you attract a level of respect that you stand for what you believe in. You are dependable to finish what you start. So it comes with a whole lot of positive qualities. And obviously, those who fear things that they cannot control, they will obviously react in ways that would say we would rather not work with that person. But it's okay, because it helps you, I guess, find your tribe, because then you end up working with the people that are like you, that you value the same kind of things. and you can have a good relationship with those people. So that's what I've found. The opportunities that I've lost as a result, because people look at you funny, I've just told myself that they were not mine in the first place. Because as much as I've lost opportunities, I've also gained other opportunities. So, for instance, with I lecture for Vega Business School. Not Vega, Da Vinci now, Business School. And the reason they wanted me was because of the principles of transformation that I hold dear, the different way of teaching and doing work that I literally was, I guess someone can say, was dismissed for. This institution find that appealing. They want the kind of person who thinks in that way, someone who innovates, So as much as I lost wits, if you may, I gained an environment that is more in tune and more aligned to my values, to the kind of person that I am, and to my purpose. So yeah, so I guess that's the answer. It repels those who should be repelled, and it attracts those who belong in my circle.
Yeah. No, that's a perfect way to answer it. And I think it's important for you to say, yes, I did lose out on certain opportunities, but I guess, that's life. You're not going to win at everything, but there are other things that you were able to gain. And thank you also for answering the balance, that there's no such thing as balance. It's integration or putting on pause some things that you can put on pause and then going back to them. Thank you for that. Kovini, can we have you join us? So same question as Sbongile, that one. And then the next one that I want to ask you is, you being a CA, and we know accountants work in a very high paced and deadline driven, and just there's always a lot of stress and pressure in terms of accountants. How have you been able to manage, your work in corporates as a CA and then running this incredible brand that is outside of what a CA, like we would say a typical CA looks like, like you're saying, you're very active in the media space, you're very active in the social media space. How have you been able to do both? And also for your corporate employer not to feel like, could she be spending more time on this particular brand and not maybe giving her all in her daytime job?
I'm going to start with
Swangile,
that.
please. Oh, you've changed your outfit.
I'm going to start with that one and then come back to the work-life balance. I have a team of 3 young social media managers that, do all the daily day-to-day operations while I'm busy at my job. So that's one thing that really helps me to focus on my job, because my job comes first. And I think just, growing this brand and being a part of it for 5 years, you also get very familiar around what your audience wants, what kind of things could pose risk. For example, if you have to post something, I would really only get involved if there's some kind of escalation, which I don't think we've had in the last 3 years, if I can think back. But yeah, these 3 individuals are from disadvantaged backgrounds. I'm creating employment for them. It feels good that they are, utilizing their skills and knowledge, because, they have studied this digital marketing, and that they get to, support me while I'm working my day job. And I think for me, it's also just when I explain Boss Babes of South Africa and the ability to inspire and empower, and people say it's not very much like what you'd expect from a CASA, because, they're often like boring, and sometimes people call us bean counters. For me, that's just a stereotype that I also just wanted to break. Because in today's world, you don't have to look like something or look like, fit into this box, a gray suit, baggy gray suit. Just so you know, you'll never find me in that. Because I think, the world of being a CA and being a professional in corporate has evolved, in terms of, being able to dress with things that show off a bit more authenticity and a bit more of your personality, while still being corporate, appropriate and formal. So I think for me, it's just about realizing that Boss Babes of South Africa isn't separate to me. It is an extension of my personality. It allows me to use my voice in a greater way. It allows me to impact in a greater way. And I think for me, having both of those elements play together is very important for me to be living a fulfilled and satisfied life whilst also paying it forward. And I think that links very closely to work-life balance. On different days, different things take priority. And that's just the balance that you're going to have to, I want to say, maneuver every day. Every day looks different. Today I'm here and I'm mindful that I'm here and I'm giving it my all. And yeah, another day may look completely different. So I think it's also about give and take, and just being able to be responsible with your duties, irrespective of where you find yourself. And I think the other big thing that helps me is just that I am confident in what I do from a professional perspective. You know, I've been doing it for 18 years. I'm an expert in it. It does take me a lot less time than it would probably take someone else, simply because I've invested time and effort in myself, in becoming excellent, and also supporting my team to become excellent in terms of risk management, governance, and compliance.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I love that, you know, you've grown Boss Babes in terms of you're able to have people who can work on it while, like you're saying, then you're able to give your all into your corporate job. And that it's an extension of you. I know you're like, you like me, like pink Barbie, bright colors. So you've definitely debunked that whole thing of bean counters.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. With Tembisa, please can you come on? And for you, you know, the same question that I asked the ladies, but I wanted to ask, I remember at an event, the event that we did 2 weeks ago, you said, and you mentioned financial education and financial literacy, and you were like, they are different. And maybe for someone who hasn't read your book and hasn't interacted with you, you know, before or for a long time, how can we know what the difference is? Because that might then help someone who is trying to maybe change their money habits, adopt new financial patterns and things like that. What is the difference between financial education and financial literacy?
Thank you, Anele. I think I'll start with the work-life balance. Again, as you mentioned, we spoke about this last 2 weeks to say, Tibis, how do you juggle being a mother of two teenagers, a wife, holding a business, traveling, and all that. And I answered exactly like Usis Bongile answered. I said the work-life balance doesn't exist. And I still say that today it doesn't exist. There is no such, because you could never have everything okay. And for me, balance talks to the fact that your social life is 100%, your personal life is 100%, your finances is 100%, spiritually okay, physically okay. And you said seldom find that everything is on par, right? What is important for me and how I do think is I prioritize what needs to be prioritized at that moment, and I deal with it. So it's one thing at a time. And I think I relate to Usbongile when she said, don't try and put all the balls up in the air and try and catch them all. Do what you can, and delegate what you need to delegate, ask for help or you need to ask for help. But I focus on what needs my focus at that moment. So you do find that out of the 8 things that I need to do, not all of them really need me the same time. Some of the things are able to run on their own, right? You find that personal wise, family wise, I'm there, but I'm probably not 100%. As much as I'm home, I fetch the kids, but my husband is actually holding the fort most of the time. Maybe he's helping with cooking. Maybe there's a week where I'm not cooking at all because I am so busy with projects, and he understands. We talk about that, and he understands that when he comes back from work, he needs to cook because I just need to focus on this project until it's done. Then you find on another week, I am probably the one doing more of parenting because the workload is low. So work-life balance for me is prioritizing what needs to be prioritized at that moment and make sure it's complete, it's done well, so that also it can be put into sleep, because in life really not you'll never find a situation where everything just wants your attention. It's about how you also approach the things and what focus you put on those things. So I hope that answers the question. On the question of financial education versus financial literacy, I think when I was doing my master's in I also didn't know. I thought when we say financial literacy, we are talking the same thing as financial education. But in reality, the financial education is about the fact that I've read the book, I know I need to invest, and I know different types of investment. I've got the education, I got the knowledge, I understand. And maybe I don't understand that, but I do have the education, right? Then financial literacy says you've got the education. So financial literacy have different, part of it. It says you've got the education. That means you've got the knowledge on what you need to do, but are you capable of applying that knowledge and actually have self-efficacy? That means, do you have the confidence then to apply the knowledge? Okay. Do you have the right attitude and the behavior towards the knowledge how has the knowledge that you have changed your behavior, your attitude, and then subsequently given you the confidence to implement, right? So if you are somebody that have read books, you are well read about finances, you've watched podcasts, which a lot of people are engaging, it's a start, it's a good thing. But having that knowledge, then you find yourself being still in financial mess. You still have lifestyle debts. You still can't manage your money. You still can't budget. You still can't invest. That means you still don't have the self-efficacy, which is part of financial literacy, of actually implementing all this education that you've applied or that you've got, right? So when you have just the knowledge about finances, you just have financial education. You are financially educated. But if you cannot apply that knowledge into your own life, then you don't have financial literacy, because financial literacy say you must have the education. The education must be able to change your attitude, must be able to change your behavior and your habits, and also then give you confidence to implement the things that you've learned.
Thank you. I think, like you're saying, a lot of people have the education. Just last question on that. How do you, as a wealth coach, as a financial wellness coach, how do you then get someone to do implement? Because I'm sure they can come to you and they can say they've done this, they've taken this course, they've read this book, they've listened to 20 podcasts, and they still just don't know. How do you then work with them? Just not necessarily work with them, but encourage them that this is the step that you now need to take in order to implement. Just one thing.
Thank you, Annalie. I think the most underrated or undermined tool that we already have, right, in our bodies, in our lives, that we think we don't even look at it. We think we need money to actually implement all this education. But in actual fact, you need your mind. It's the mindset. That's where it all starts. How you think and how you view and how you change your mindset around money is the first step, and it's the first foundation, right? So when you make a consultation with me, I think the first thing I need to make you understand that it's a journey and you will never have a destination. As long as you're alive, you will walk the journey of discovery and, improving in financial freedom and independence. But your first line or your first point or your foundation is working your mindset. We need to work with your mind, with your mind, how you think about money, what are your beliefs. So that's the first thing I have to analyze with you when we start the journey, and get you to think, believe in the things that you want, believe, once your mind is in the right set, is in the right place. There's nothing as powerful as the mind. You can do everything and anything if your mind is in that thing. Once you have that in your mind and you are determined, the next step then is just work on the behavior, which we use different tools for different people. But the first thing is just to have the right mindset so that you also acknowledge where you are and be aware where you are, then we can move forward from there. But using the best tool that we all have and we are all given by God is the mind. Your mind is your biggest tool.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Tembisa. Can we move on to Kanya? And Kanya, your question is the same as I've asked the other ladies. And the more particular question to you is in terms of you're in the waste management business. Is this something that you've always wanted to do? Because as women, we probably think you must be, in more glamorous or cleaner businesses. And how would you, going from that question, how would you encourage someone who wants to get into maybe a male dominated or a dirty industry, but they just feel, what if people judge me? How am I going to answer this? Am I going to succeed? How would you encourage someone who's maybe struggling they have a business idea, they know this is the industry they want to be in, but they also then struggle with, is it going to work out? Not many women are in this. Am I going to get support from that?
Thanks, Anile. So for the work-life balance question, I would probably say the best thing that you can do is to trust your people, is to trust your team, trust your tribe or your community or the people that are around you, to do what you have tasked them to do. I think the one thing that we don't have enough of is trust. So it makes it very hard for us to be able to let go because we feel that. And even if we're no longer at work and we're now at home and we're trying to look after the kids or we're trying to see to self-care, we're trying to do whatever else is requires our time. But unfortunately, we don't trust that the people we've delegated whatever to is going to do their thing properly. So I think trust is so important because, as we know, you can never get the work-life balance, but you can try. With proper planning, you can try it and maybe see. Because I think that sometimes we can keep our hands on something for too long, only because we didn't have a proper plan for that thing to be executed in a particular way. So if we said that we're giving it 24 hours and then it ends up taking 2 weeks, that's a problem. And it's going to be a stress and a worry for you. And then it's going to take away from your time. And that's the reason why we find ourselves in situations where we're no longer balancing our time and our family life and our work life properly, is because we don't have proper time management. We don't have proper planning with the tasks that we, have for ourselves in order for us to finish those tasks properly. And then another thing that I would say for me is, have boundaries. Have boundaries. Anybody who deals with you must know that they can't contact you at this time. And also, if they do, just let them know that this is my time for this, and I will get back to you tomorrow. So that those boundaries are very important, and have very clear boundaries when you are an entrepreneur or you're in, work and stuff like that. People that are employed, they're very good at having boundaries because they know that when I'm on leave, nobody phones me. When I'm this, only when I get back to work, I'll complete the tasks that I was given and so on. And then the next question was waste management. Yes, it is a male-dominated, industry. It is also an international company-dominated industry. It is a dirty industry. But I think that we have to understand the fact that the globe right now is moving in a certain way. And we have certain things like climate change, and we have certain things like global warming, and it's the green economy. So at that time, my mother is an environmentalist. Well, she studied environmental management and geography. So I come from a sales kind of background. So when I got into waste management sector, I guess the waste bug bit me. It was during the time that I was studying law at UKZN, and I deregistered my degree because I knew that this is something that I wanted to do. But at the same time, I still worked in the waste industry for 10 years. before I started my own company, just over 10 years. So the thing for me is that I just felt like it was a unique and a niche market. And I thought if any time I decide that I want to do and have a business, this business will be successful because I don't see people that look like me in this sector. It's not an overly saturated industry, but it also is an industry that looks after the environment in which we live in. So I think it was just the passion that I got inside of me that was my driver, and I just thought I'm going to go for it despite the fact that it is male dominated. So I think that if you see something that you want to go after, but it's not looking like it's an environment that, is suitable for you because it's male dominated, or it's maybe you're doing storage or whatever the case might be, just remember that if it's your passion and if it's something that you love, you don't have to answer to anybody about the things that you go after. You answer to you and your God. You know what I mean? So you must just go after it wholeheartedly with the passion that burns inside, because there's nobody else that can take that away from you. So I would say that that's what I did, and I went after my dream, and now I'm here today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Go after your dream, and everything will work out. Thank you to all our ladies. We are at 11:57, and we know that you are busy people. So and Kanya did speak about time management. So we have come to the end of our program for today. Thank you so much for being with us and for just helping us debunk a lot of myths in terms of what we think women should look like in certain industries, teaching us what breaking barriers looks like and why we should be persistent in showing up, growing our confidence, being financially literate, and financially savvy, and living in alignment and purpose and having a vision and a long-term view of our lives and for our businesses. Thank you so much. This will be on Proudly South African's YouTube page, YouTube channel, if you did maybe miss the beginning, and if you'd like to share it and listen to it again and share it with other people, and also on our socials. Thank you. We will see you soon at our next webinar. Have a good afternoon.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.